And we are back. What's going on, everybody? UCF Jaguar coming at you from GenJag.com, and training camp officially started today as the Jaguars wrapped up their first practice. But before I go into training camp coverage, I want to touch on the biggest storylines involving every position group on the Jaguars. So enjoy. So we'll start off with the quarterback position, and it's pretty much summed up by Blake Bortles. Now, Blake Bortles spent the whole offseason working on his mechanics and trying to tighten that up. So now it's all about bringing that into training camp and seeing if he can hold up those mechanics and not digress in that route. And then now it's really more time for him to work on decision making and working on reading defensive coverages. And at the running back position, it's all about Leonard Fournette. Leonard Fournette will be our bell cow player. Hopefully he'll get around 1,200 yards. He was a number 4 overall pick for the Jaguars. And, you know, we have him. And then who's going to be the number 2 running back? Will it be Ivory? Will it be Yeldon? Yeldon's finally able to practice, and he's finally healthy after missing a bunch of OTA practices. So, really this position, it's all about Leonard Fournette, and I'm pumped to see him. And then next up is the wide receivers. Now, the 4 position locks are Marquez Williams, Al Robinson, Allen Hurns, and D.D. Westbrook. But the big question with this is, are we going to keep 5 or 6 wide receivers? Now, these players are going to have to contribute on special teams. We all know a guy like Aurelius Ben can do very well playing special teams, but Rashad Green, his direct way to really be on the team is to be able to contribute in either kick return or punt return. He hasn't even amassed 300 yards over his 2-year Jaguar career, as he's battled a lot of injuries, and it really just seems like the most direct way for him to be able to get on the roster is to prove that he can make an impact on special teams. And next up we have the tight ends. The Jaguars signed Michael Rivera out of Oakland to be pretty much our main kind of receiving tight end target. And then we also have Mercedes Lewis, who's coming into, I believe, his 11th or 12th season, and he's going to make that impact on the run game. But, you know, behind that, we got quiet players like Ben Koyak and Neil Sterling. You know, who knows if we're going to keep 3 or 4 tight ends. A lot of people scrutinize the Jaguars for not going after a tight end in the draft, or even talking to Gary Barnidge and not signing him to a deal. But we will see how much of an impact these tight ends will have on our team. And next up, we have the offensive line. There's going to be a lot of shaking up that goes on with the offensive line, I think, with plugging a bunch of different players in different positions. You know, obviously, the big storyline is Brandon Alberts and Cam Robinson's competition at left tackle. And whoever loses that competition, are they going to be moved into a different part of the line? Are they going to be involved in the top 5 linemen on the team? You know, we'll see what progresses there. And then we also have Tyler Shatley started off today at the left guard position after last year he spent most of his time at center. And Doug Marrone touched on moving A.J. Cann back to left guard as well. So I think there's going to be a lot of mixing up on this line to see who the best 5 are and to see where these players are most effective. And we'll keep it in the trenches and move to the defensive side of the line. And really, our defensive line looks pretty dang stacked. We have 2 twin towers in the middle with Malik Jackson and Calais Campbell, who should make huge impacts on our team. Yannick Ngakoue coming off of a franchise break, or rookie franchise sack breaking year. So, you know, Jaguar fans are obviously really excited about him. He still has a lot of work to do in the run game, but, you know, we also have Dante Fowler. Hopefully he can fix his stuff and, you know, fix his maturity a little bit and fix his maturity on the field also. He was I believe he was like one of the most, like definitely a top 5 most penalized defensive ends in the league. I believe he was the most, but I don't want to, you know, give you guys false facts. But we also have Dewan Smoot, who we drafted in the 3rd round. I like that pick. There's a lot of people, you know, talking about that. You know, Sheldon Day. There's really all kinds of talent on this line. So that's probably the strength of our team right at the moment. And move on out to the linebackers. Big thing here as Miles Jack and Paul Posluszny essentially flip-flop positions, as Miles Jack is going to be taking on a bigger role, basically being the quarterback of the defense, making all the calls, lining players up. So it's going to be a real learning period for Myles Jack during these training camp practices and preseason practices. Hopefully he doesn't get injured at all, because that'd be a terrible injury, because he really needs his time to be able to develop and learn different stuff, especially how we're having joint practices with the Patriots and then the Buccaneers. I think those practices will be really crucial to him as he sees new look offenses. And also Paul Posluszny on the strong side. We'll see how he adjusts to moving to that Sam linebacker spot. I expect him to be able to pretty well, but you know, you never know. And we're moving on out to the cornerback group. Our top two cornerbacks, AJ Boye and Jalen Ramsey, might be the best cornerback tandem in the NFL, but I'll wait to make those judgments until I actually see them on the field together, but that'll be really exciting to see. And then Aaron Colvin playing our nickel spot. This is probably going to be his last year on the Jaguars, like I've stated before. I think the market will be able to give him more money than the Jaguars are willing to offer, especially with the money going toward AJ Boye, and Jalen Ramsey is going to be our starting cornerback, and he's going to be getting paid one of these days as well. So really we'll also be looking at the depth of this position. I think Josh Johnson will be a guy who's going to show out a lot, and also we have Jalen Myrick, who ran the fastest 40 time for a defensive back in the NFL Combine. So it'll be really exciting to see him show off his speed. And please keep in mind that Jalen Ramsey and Aaron Colvin are both on a PUP list right now. We kind of expected that out of Jalen Ramsey because he had that off-season core surgery, but Aaron Colvin, it's a little concerning. Hopefully he can be back soon, but for the time being, it's letting guys like Josh Johnson and Jalen Myrick being able to show what they have to offer. And then moving on back to the safety group, this is really relieving because Tashawn Gibson and Barry Church were out practicing today after both of them missed the whole entire OTA period. I was really hoping that their injuries that they weren't still going to be injured, because that means that their injuries were lingering throughout the offseason, but luckily they're back. So hopefully we can have a pretty decent impact from them. I mean, they're not the strengths of our defense necessarily, but they've both done good things in their career. They've both been, you know, one coming from Tashawn Gibson from the Browns, Barry Church from the Cowboys. Both of them have come with a lot of interceptions, and the Jaguars had one of the worst turnover margins in the NFL last season. So hopefully with this defensive line, we can get some pressure on the quarterback, force some errant throws for these guys to go up and snag some balls. And we'll end it off with the special teams. Now, Carson Tinker at long snapper, Jason Myers at kicker, Brad Nortman at punter. Nothing's going to change here. Those are pretty much as big of locks as you can get, but it's going to be all about really the kick return and punt return game. Corey Grant, his main way to make it on the roster is to show that he can have an impact on the kick return, and as well as Rashad Green, he's going to have to show that he can be a good punt returner, because those are where these players are going to be able to make their biggest impact and be able to sneak themselves at the bottom end of the roster. So that wraps up my quick positional storylines going into training camp. Of course, I have position reviews, more in-depth position reviews on all these positions, so if you want to know more about a particular position group, go back and look at those videos. And I'm going to start doing training camp recaps where you know, I kind of listen to what the coaches say and stuff like that. But the thing is, it really stinks for me because like every year I usually go out to training camp practices, but I'm not in college anymore and I'm working full time and I'm down here in Orlando, so I really don't have access. Unfortunately, I can't really go. It kind of sucks, but I requested off work for the Buccaneers joint training camp practices, so I'm really pumped about that. But as far as giving you guys these training camp reviews, I really wish I could give you guys my own thoughts on it, but I'm gonna be basically listening to a bunch of the media members doing a bunch of research on what they're finding and listening to every single press conference between the players, the coaches, and all that kind of stuff to really gather thoughts of, you know, my own thoughts about what I think will, you know, what my thoughts are kind of on that. But if you guys are gonna be going to training camps, definitely leave comments at the bottom of my videos and let me know what you guys saw. You know, I'm really interested in seeing different perspectives from, you know, fans as opposed to necessarily like media or coaches, because, you know, we all have our own thoughts and takeaways, and, you know, I definitely like to know what you guys think. But with all that said, thank you guys for watching my video. This is UCF Jaguar coming at you from GenJag.com, and I'm out.